The ship landed softly on the metal floor of Station Harmony 7. Park looked through the small window and felt her heart beat faster. She was far from Earth now, very far. The station floated in space like a giant wheel made of glass and steel. Lights blinked everywhere. Ships came and went like busy insects. She was 23 years old. She was the first human to study at the Galactic Academy of Relations. Back on Earth, people had celebrated when she was chosen. News channels showed her face. Her mother cried happy tears. Her father said he was proud. But now, standing alone in this strange place, felt very small. The door of the ship opened with a soft sound. Cold air touched her face. It smelled different here, clean but strange, like nothing she had ever smelled before. A creature made of light waited for her outside. It had the shape of a person but no solid body, just glowing energy contained in a human-like form. This was Professor had seen pictures, but seeing the professor in real life was different. The light shifted and moved like a living flame. "Welcome, human," the professor said. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "You are the first of your kind to walk these halls. Many are curious about you." Bowed politely. This was how she had been raised. Show respect, be humble. "Thank you, Professor. I will do my best to learn." The professor's light flickered. Perhaps this was surprise, perhaps interest, could not tell yet. They walked together through long hallways. The walls were made of something that looked like crystal. Through them could see other rooms, other beings, so many different creatures. Some had too many legs, some had no legs at all and floated like ghosts. Some were covered in hard shells, some looked like moving plants. Tried not to stare, but it was hard. They reached a large room where many students had gathered. This was the orientation, the beginning of the new semester. Counted 12 different species. She was the only human. A tall insect creature looked at her with many eyes. Its body clicked and clacked when it moved. Learned later that this species was called. They communicated partly through sounds their bodies made. A small furry creature with big round eyes sat in the corner, trembling slightly. This was They were known for being gentle and easily frightened. A massive being with gray skin and 4 arms stood near the back. This was warriors by nature. They respected strength above all things. And there were others, so many others, each one stranger than the last. Professor floated to the front of the room. The talking stopped. Everyone paid attention. "Welcome to the academy," the professor began. "You have come from different worlds. You speak different languages. You have different bodies and different minds. But you are here to learn one thing: understanding." The professor paused. The light flickered brighter. "To understand others, you must first understand yourself. And to understand yourself, you must face your fear." A ripple of unease passed through the room. The small whimpered quietly. "Tomorrow," the professor continued, "you will meet the dread." The reaction was immediate. The insect creature's body clicked rapidly. Thus 4 hands formed fists. Even the floating beings seemed to shrink back. "What is the dread?" asked. She did not know. Humans had only recently joined the galactic community. There was so much they did not know. Every eye and sensor in the room turned to look at her. Professor moved closer. "The dread is ancient, older than most civilizations. It is a creature that feeds on fear. When you stand before it, it looks into your mind. It finds your deepest terror, and it becomes that terror." Felt a chill run down her back, but she kept her face calm. The student raised a segmented arm. "Professor, does the human even have fears? We have heard stories. Humans fight predators for fun. They jump from high places with nothing but cloth to slow their fall. They put themselves in metal boxes and drive at deadly speeds. Are they even capable of fear?" More eyes turned to, some curious, some doubtful, some almost hopeful. Thought carefully before answering. "We have fears," she said quietly. "Many fears. We just learn to walk toward them instead of away." Silence filled the room. Later that night found her sleeping quarters. The room was small but comfortable, 2 beds, 2 desks. She would have a roommate. The door opened and the small creature walked in. Up close, could see soft brown fur and those large, worried eyes. The creature was about half's height. "Hello," said gently. "I am Park, you can call me." The trembled. I chose a human name to practice your customs, I am." Smiled is a beautiful name. It means valuable in my language. His eyes grew even wider. "It does. I did not know, I just liked the sound." They sat together on their beds. Outside the window, stars filled the black sky, more stars than had ever seen from Earth. "Are you scared?" asked in a tiny voice. "About tomorrow, about the dread." Looked at her new friend. She could lie. She could pretend to be brave, but that did not feel right. "Yes," she admitted. "I am scared, but my grandmother taught me something when I was young. She said fear is not the enemy. Fear is just a feeling. It comes and it goes, like weather. You cannot stop the rain, but you can learn to walk in it." Moved closer. Her small body still shook. "What if the rain is too heavy? What if you drown?" Reached out and gently touched furry head. The flinched at first, then relaxed. "Then we hold on to each other," said, "and we keep walking together." That night slept in his bed, curled up like a small child seeking comfort. Stayed awake for a long time, looking at the stars, thinking about tomorrow. The dread was waiting, and would face it. The fear chamber was deep below the academy, and her classmates traveled down in a lift that seemed to fall forever. The lights grew dimmer. The air grew colder. Nobody spoke. Stood close to, her small furry body pressing against leg. They had not stopped shaking since morning. The lift stopped with a soft sound. The doors opened. They walked into a massive cave. The walls were made of old stone, not the clean crystal of the academy above. This place was ancient, could feel it in her bones. Millions of years had passed in this room. In the center of the cave was a circle of light. Inside that circle something moved. It had no clear shape. It was like smoke and shadow mixed together. It swirled and twisted and changed every moment. This was the dread. Professor floated before the students. The professor's light seemed weaker down here, smaller. "The dread is not evil," the professor explained. "It does not want to hurt you. It is like a mirror. It shows you what lives inside your own mind. When you stand before it, it will search your thoughts. It will find your deepest fear, and it will become that fear." The student named Clicksnap made a nervous sound. His body parts clicked together rapidly. "Why must we do this?" asked the large warrior. Even his deep voice sounded uncertain. "Because fear controls us all," Professor answered. "Every war, every conflict, every misunderstanding between species. Fear is always there, hiding underneath. If you want to be diplomats, if you want to bring peace to the galaxy, you must first understand fear, starting with your own." One by one, the students would approach the containment circle. One by one, they would face what they feared most. Clicksnap went first, walked forward on his many legs. He tried to look brave, he failed. The dread swirled and reached toward him. For a moment nothing happened. Then the shadow changed. It became thousands of, all dying at once. Their bodies fell and crumbled. Their lights went dark. Colony collapse. The death of everyone Clicksnap loved happening before his eyes. Clicksnap screamed. The sound was terrible. He ran from the chamber, his legs moving so fast they blurred. Next was a floating being called a Morrow. They had no solid body, just energy and thought. The dread became a void that sucked the Morrow's energy away. The creature fled, crying out in a language that had no words. Student after student faced the dread. Each time, it found their deepest terror. Saw his own weakness, his body broken and helpless while enemies laughed. A plant-like watched itself wither and die under a burning sun. A crystalline saw itself shatter into a million pieces that could never be put back together. Some ran. Some fell to the ground and could not move. Some had to be carried out by medical workers who waited nearby. Then it was turn. The small looked up at with eyes full of terror. I cannot do this, I cannot. Knelt down, she took tiny paws in her hands. You are stronger than you know, and I will be right here when you come back. Walked toward the circle on shaking legs. Each step seemed to take forever. The dread swirled and reached for her mind. It became the endless dark. This was the ancient fear of the people, the void between stars, the emptiness that their ancestors believed could swallow souls. It spread out around like an ocean of nothing. No light, no sound, no warmth, just endless, eternal dark. Curled into a ball on the floor, she made small sounds of pure fear. Two medical workers rushed forward and carried her away. Watched her friend disappear through a side door. Her heart hurt. Went next. The big walked forward with heavy steps. His people were warriors. They did not show fear, but could see his 4 hands trembling slightly. The dread became a creature from history, a predator from their old world. It had hunted its ancestors before they learned to fight back. The thing was massive, with teeth like swords and eyes like fire. Roared and charged at it. This was the way. Face danger head-on, fight until you win or die. But the dread was not real. Passed right through it and fell to the ground on the other side. The predator turned and looked down at him. In its eyes saw something worse than death. He saw himself as prey, weak, helpless, nothing. The great warrior crawled away, unable to stand. 11 species, 11 students, 11 different terrors. Now only remained. The chamber was quiet. Those who had not fled watched with wide eyes and sensors. The medical workers stood ready. Professor floated nearby, light flickering with interest. Walked forward. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. She did not walk fast or slow, she simply walked, one step after another, the way her grandmother had taught her. When you are afraid, keep walking. Do not run toward, do not run away, just walk. She reached the edge of the containment circle. The dread swirled before her, dark and ancient and hungry. It reached into her mind. Felt it searching. It moved through her thoughts like cold water. It looked at her memories, her childhood, her family, her hopes and dreams and regrets. It found fear, so much fear. Fear of failure. Had always pushed herself to be the best. What if she was not good enough? What if she disappointed everyone? Fear of loss. Her grandmother had died 2 years ago. The pain was still fresh. What if she lost more people she loved? Fear of being alone. She was so far from home, the only human among strangers. What if no one ever truly understood her? Fear of the unknown. The universe was so big, so old, so strange. What if there were things out there that could break her mind just by existing? The dread tried to become these fears. It shifted and changed. Fire, drowning, falling, isolation. It cycled through images like someone searching for the right key to unlock a door. But something was wrong. The fears were there, yes, but they were not alone. Wrapped around each fear was something else. Something the dread had never encountered in 4,000 years of existence. Did not fight her fears. She did not run from them. She did not pretend they were not real. She accepted them. They were part of her, like old scars on skin, like memories of rain, present, acknowledged, but not in control. The dread searched deeper, desperate now. There had to be something, some fear that ruled this creature, some terror that could be used. But had sat with her fears for years. She had learned their names. She had invited them to tea, as her grandmother used to say. They were not enemies, they were teachers. The dread began to shrink. It could not hold its shape. Without raw terror to feed on, without panic to give it power, it started to collapse inward. Watched it with gentle eyes. You must be so tired, she said softly. The dread had never been spoken to like this. In 4,000 years, no one had ever shown it kindness. It did not know what to do. So it did the only thing it could. It became small. The dread had been many things in its long existence. It had been monsters and darkness and death. It had been the end of worlds and the screams of dying children. It had been every nightmare ever dreamed by 1,000 different species across 1,000,000 years. But it had never been this. The great shadow collapsed inward like a dying star. The swirling darkness became smaller and smaller. The terrible power faded. What remained was something nobody in the chamber expected. A creature sat before. It was about the size of a large cat from Earth. Its fur was dark, so dark it seemed to drink the light around it. It had large eyes that reflected every color and no color at the same time, soft ears, a small nose, paws that looked almost delicate. It looked up at. She looked down at it. In those strange eyes saw something she recognized. Exhaustion. Deep, ancient exhaustion. This creature had carried the fears of countless beings for thousands of years. It had been hated and dreaded and avoided. No one had ever simply sat with it. No one had ever shown it compassion. Until now. "Hello," said softly. She knelt down slowly, making herself smaller, less threatening. "It is okay. I am not going to hurt you." The creature tilted its head. It did not understand these words, not really, but it understood the feeling behind them, kindness, acceptance, things it had never received. Slowly, carefully, the creature walked toward. Its paws made no sound on the stone floor. It circled her once, twice, smelling her perhaps, or reading her emotions, or just trying to understand this strange human who did not run. Then it curled up at her feet and slept. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Even Professor had stopped flickering. "This is impossible," someone whispered. "The dread does not sleep," another voice said. "It cannot sleep. It feeds on fear. It needs fear to exist." But the creature at its feet was clearly sleeping. Its breathing was slow and peaceful. Sometimes its paws twitched, like a dog dreaming of running. Sat down carefully, not wanting to disturb it. She looked up at the watching crowd. "It was just tired," she said simply. "It has been working very hard for a very long time." Professor floated closer. The being of living light examined the sleeping creature with what might have been wonder. "In 4,000 years of recorded history," the professor said slowly, "no one has ever done this. The dread has faced billions of minds. It has found fear in every single one. It has never been reduced, calmed, made peaceful." "I did not do anything special," said. "I just did not fight it." "That is exactly what is special." Professor A's light grew brighter. "Every species fights fear. It is instinct. You see a predator, you run or fight. You feel danger, you react. This is how minds work. This is how survival works." Thought about this. She understood what the professor meant, but she also knew something the professor did not. "On Earth," she said, "we learned something important. Fighting fear makes it stronger. The more you push against it, the harder it pushes back. But if you just sit with it, if you accept that it is there, if you stop trying to make it go away," she shrugged, "it has nothing left to do." The professor's light flickered rapidly. This was new information, important information. "How did your species learn this?" Smiled softly. "Thousands of years of suffering, many mistakes, many failures. We hurt ourselves, we hurt each other. Fear made us do terrible things. Wars, cruelty, destruction. But some of us started to ask questions. Why are we so afraid? What if we stopped running? What if we faced the darkness inside ourselves?" She looked down at the sleeping creature. Different humans found different answers. Some sat in silence and watched their own minds. Some talked about their fears with others. Some wrote stories about monsters to understand them. Some just held each other in the dark until the sun came up. The students who had stayed began to move closer. They were curious now, not just afraid. The warrior pushed through the crowd. His 4 hands were still shaking from his own encounter with the dread. but his eyes were focused on. "You say you accept fear," he said. His voice was rough. "But fear is weakness. Fear makes you slow. Fear makes you lose battles. My people have fought for generations to remove fear from our hearts." Looked at him with kind eyes. "And has it worked?" Opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "No," he admitted finally. "We still fear, we just pretend we do not." "That is very tiring," said, "pretending all the time." The warrior looked at the sleeping creature. His expression changed. Something softer appeared in his eyes. "Yes," he said quietly, "it is." A medical worker approached carefully. She was a being with silver skin and too many fingers. "We should remove the dread to a containment area, study what has happened, make sure it is safe." Looked at the sleeping creature. Then she looked at the medical worker. "It is safe," she said firmly. "It is just sleeping, leave it alone." "But the protocols—" "The protocols are for the old dread, the one that was dangerous. This is not that anymore." His voice was gentle but strong. "If you try to lock it up again, if you treat it like a monster, it might become a monster again. Fear grows when you try to cage it." Professor moved between and the medical worker. "The human makes a valid point. We will observe. We will not interfere, for now." The medical worker did not look happy, but she stepped back. Hours passed. The creature slept, sat with it, occasionally stroking its dark fur. It was soft, like touching a shadow made solid. Sometimes the creature made small sounds in its sleep. Not scary sounds, almost like purring. Students came and went. Some just wanted to see with their own eyes. Others had questions. Why did the human not run? How did she stay calm? Could they learn to do the same? Answered as best she could. She talked about breathing, about watching thoughts like clouds passing in the sky, about accepting feelings without letting them control you. Most students did not understand. These ideas were strange to them. Their species had different ways of dealing with fear, mostly running or fighting or forgetting. But some listened carefully. Some took notes. Some looked at the sleeping creature and wondered if they could ever be so peaceful. When evening came, the creature finally woke up. It yawned, showing small teeth that did not look dangerous at all. It stretched like any cat might stretch. Then it looked at with those strange deep eyes. She smiled at it. It bumped its head against her hand. And just like that, the most feared being in the galaxy had made its first friend. News traveled fast in the galaxy. By the next morning, everyone knew about the human who had tamed the dread. Messages came from everywhere. Scientists wanted to study her. Military leaders wanted to meet her. Politicians wanted to use her. Everyone had questions. Everyone had opinions. Everyone wanted something. Sat in her small room with and the creature. She had decided to call it. In Korean, this meant wind. Because she explained, fear should pass through you like wind passes through leaves. It comes. It touches you. Then it moves on. Seemed to like its name. Or maybe it just liked being named at all. It stayed close to, following her like a shadow with legs. Watch from her bed. The small had recovered from her encounter with the dread, but she still flinched when looked at her. "I do not understand," said quietly. "That thing showed me the endless dark, the worst fear of my people. How can you be so calm around it?" Scratched behind's ears, the creature made a sound like happy static. "It showed you a fear. That does not make it evil. A mirror shows you your face. You do not hate the mirror." "But the fear was inside me. The dread put it there." "No," said gently. "The fear was already inside you. The dread just showed you what was there. It did not create anything new." Thought about this for a long time. Her large eyes blinked slowly. "So my fear of the dark, it was mine all along." "Yes, and that means you can also make peace with it, if you choose to." Before could respond, a message came through the room's communication system. Was being summoned to meet with a special council. Important beings from many governments wanted to speak with her. The meeting room was large and cold. Beings sat around a curved table, some recognized from her studies. Admiral, a warrior from a species that valued conquest. Ambassador, a being of crystal and light who spoke for the peaceful. Director, head of the Academy's research division. And many others. Walked in with at her heels. The creature drew immediate attention. Several beings shifted uncomfortably. One actually stood up and backed away. "Is it safe to have that thing here?" Admiral demanded. His voice was like grinding rocks. "Is harmless," said. She took a seat at the table, curled up at her feet. "Please continue." The council members looked at each other. They were not used to being told what to do by a young human. Ambassador spoke first. Her voice was like singing glass. "We have reviewed the recordings from the fear chamber. What you did should not be possible. The dread has been a tool of this academy for 4,000 years. It has never failed to find terror in any mind." "It found terror in mine," said. "It just could not use it against me." "Explain," Admiral said. "It was not a request." Took a breath. She had to choose her words carefully. These beings had power. They could make her life very difficult if they wanted. "Fear is a feeling," she began. "Like hunger or tiredness. It tells you something. It gives you information. On Earth, we learned that fighting feelings is useless. They always come back stronger. But if you accept them, if you let them exist without trying to control them, they lose their power over you." Director leaned forward. He was a being with gray skin and eyes that never blinked. "You are saying humans do not feel fear?" "No, we feel fear all the time. We are afraid of death, afraid of failure, afraid of being alone, afraid of the dark, afraid of the unknown," smiled slightly. "We might be the most afraid species in the galaxy. We just learned to keep going anyway." Silence filled the room. Admiral broke it. "This is why humans are dangerous." Everyone looked at him. "Not because you are strong," the Admiral continued. "You are weak, soft bodies, short lives, no natural weapons, but you have something worse than weapons. You have made peace with the darkness inside yourselves. You can walk through fear like it is not there." Shook her head. "Not like it is not there. We walk through fear while knowing it is there. That is different." "Is it something you can teach?" Ambassador asked. "Can other species learn this ability?" Thought carefully. "I am not a teacher, I am just a student. But yes, I believe it can be learned. On Earth we have many practices: meditation, therapy, philosophy, different ways to understand your own mind. Some take years to master, some can be learned in days." The council members whispered to each other. Words like potential and applications and strategic advantage floated through the air. Did not like these words. They sounded cold. They sounded like people trying to turn something beautiful into a weapon. "I need to say something," she spoke up. The whispering stopped. "What I did with the dread was not a trick. It was not a technique. It was not a way to defeat an enemy. It was simply kindness." Admiral made a harsh sound. "Kindness to a monster." "Is not a monster. Is a creature that has spent thousands of years being feared and hated and avoided. Nobody ever thought to ask why it does what it does. Nobody ever wondered if it was lonely. Nobody ever just sat with it." She looked around the table. "Fear creates more fear. Violence creates more violence. If you want peace, you have to start with understanding. And understanding starts with compassion, even for the things that scare you." The room was quiet. Had been allowed to observe from the back. The big stepped forward. His 4 hands were clasped together. "I want to learn," he said. "What the human knows, I want to learn it." Admiral looked at him with disgust. "You would learn the ways of these weak creatures." Straightened to his full height. He was taller than the Admiral. His muscles were larger. By every measure of strength, he was superior. "I am tired," he said slowly. "Tired of pretending I am not afraid. Tired of fighting fears that never die. Tired of passing this suffering to my children." He looked at. "If there is another way, I want to know it." Other voices joined his. the ambassador, two scientists from species did not know, even one of the admiral's own aides. Professor who had been silent until now, floated to the center of the room. Perhaps, the professor said, it is time for the academy to update its curriculum. And just like that, everything changed. Was asked to help design a new course. Human contemplative practices. It would be optional at first. A trial. To see if other species could learn what humans had learned through thousands of years of suffering and growth. When she returned to her room that night was waiting. The small looked at with different eyes now, still cautious, but curious too. Can you teach me, asked, what you taught the dread? Sat down on her bed, jumped up and settled beside her. I did not teach the dread anything. I just showed it that I was not afraid of being afraid, and you can learn that too. Moved closer. Slowly, hesitantly, she reached out a small paw and touched dark fur. The creature opened one eye, looked at her, and went back to sleep. Let out a breath she had been holding for a very long time. Teach me, she said. And smiled. 6 months passed on Station Harmony 7. The first class of human contemplative practices was about to begin. 47 students from 30 different species sat in a circle in a room designed for comfort, not fear. Soft lights, warm air, cushions instead of hard seats. Stood in the center of the circle. She was nervous, though she tried not to show it. She was just 23 years old. She was not a monk or a teacher or a philosopher. She was just a girl from Earth who had learned some things from her grandmother. But these beings had come to learn, and she would do her best to teach. Lay in the middle of the circle. The creature had changed in the past months. It was a little bigger now, a little softer. It no longer felt like condensed shadow. It felt like a pet that had finally found a home. Students looked at with mixed feelings. Some were still afraid. The creature had shown them their worst nightmares. That was hard to forget. But others were curious. If this human could make peace with the dread, maybe they could too. Sat near the front. The small had been practicing with for months now. She still feared the endless dark, but the fear no longer controlled her. Sat in the back, his large body taking up space meant for 3 smaller beings. The warrior had become one of his most dedicated students. He said that facing your inner battles was the hardest fight of all. He liked hard fights. Welcome, said. Her voice was soft but clear. Thank you for coming. I know some of you are scared. That is okay. Fear is allowed here. Everything is allowed here. She paused, let the words settle. I am not going to teach you how to remove fear. That is not possible. Fear is part of being alive. As long as you care about something, you will be afraid of losing it. As long as you hope for something, you will be afraid of not getting it. Fear is the shadow of love. A student raised a limb. Then what will you teach us? I will teach you how to live with fear, how to feel it without being controlled by it, how to let it pass through you like wind through leaves. She sat down on the floor, crossing her legs. Let us begin. Close your eyes, or whatever you use for seeing, and breathe, or whatever you do to stay alive. Some students laughed nervously, but they followed her instructions. Now think of something you fear. It does not have to be your biggest fear, just something that makes you uncomfortable. Maybe it is failing an exam. Maybe it is speaking in front of others. Maybe it is being alone. The room grew quiet. 47 minds turned inward. Notice where you feel the fear in your body. Is it in your chest, your stomach, your head? Fear lives in the body. It is not just a thought. It is a physical thing. Felt her fear of the dark like a cold weight in her chest. She had felt this weight all her life. It had always seemed like something bad, something to avoid. Now, continued, do something strange. Instead of pushing the fear away, invite it closer. Say to it, I see you. You can stay, but you do not get to drive. Felt his fear of weakness. It sat in his stomach like a hot stone. Every was taught to crush this feeling, to ignore it, to pretend it was not there. But now he let it exist. He looked at it without fighting. and slowly, very slowly, the hot stone began to cool. Fear is not the enemy, said. Fear is information. It tells you what you care about. It tells you what matters. If you were afraid of nothing, you would care about nothing. You would be empty. She opened her eyes and looked around the circle. The goal is not to be fearless. The goal is to be afraid and still choose how you respond. Fear can advise you, but it should not command you. The session lasted an hour, taught them simple things: how to breathe when panic came, how to watch thoughts without getting lost in them, how to be kind to themselves when fear won. Not everyone understood. Some species had minds too different from humans. Some fears were too deep to touch in a single day. But some students left the room with something new, a small seed of peace, a tiny light in the darkness, something to grow. After the session, walked with through the academy halls, padded along beside them, drawing looks from everyone they passed. "How do you feel?" asked. "Strange," admitted. "My fear is still there, but it feels different, like it is on the other side of a window. I can see it, but it cannot touch me." "That will fade," warned. "The fear will come close again. The window will disappear. This is not a cure, it is a practice. You have to do it again and again." "For how long?" Smiled. "Forever, or until you die, whichever comes first." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Humans are very strange." "Yes, but strange can be good." They reached the observation deck. Through the massive window, stars filled the black sky, thousands of them, millions, more than anyone could count. Somewhere out there were worlds full of beings who lived in fear. Wars were fought because of fear. Civilizations rose and fell because of fear. Children cried in the night because of fear. "Do you really think this can change things?" asked. "One class in one academy, can it really make a difference?" Looked at the stars. She thought about Earth, about the long history of human suffering, about all the wars and cruelties and mistakes, but also about the moments of peace, the meditation halls, the therapy rooms, the quiet moments when someone finally forgave themselves for being imperfect. "My grandmother used to say something," replied. "She said that you cannot empty the ocean with a cup, but you can teach others to carry cups, and they can teach others. And one day, maybe, the ocean will be a little smaller." Jumped up on the window ledge. The creature looked out at the stars with its strange eyes. What did it see? Wondered. Did it see all the fear out there, all the potential nightmares waiting to be born? Or did it see something else, something like hope? Years passed. The class grew. What started as an experiment became a requirement. Diplomats learned to sit with their fears before negotiations. Scientists learned to face their terrors before exploring the unknown. Warriors learned that true courage was not the absence of fear. Not everyone succeeded. Some species could not learn these practices. Some beings were too broken by their pasts. Some fears were too deep to reach. But enough beings learned, enough minds changed, enough peace was made. And remained at the academy. The creature that had once been the dread now served a different purpose. Students would come to sit with it. They would face their fears in its presence. But instead of terror, they found a small creature that liked to be scratched behind the ears. One day, many years later, sat on the observation deck. She was older now. Her hair had threads of gray. Her face had lines that came from smiling and thinking. Sat beside her. There was no longer small and trembling. She had grown into a teacher herself. She taught the basics of fear acceptance to new students. Lay between them, purring in its strange way. "Do you ever wonder," asked, "what would have happened if you had run that day, in the fear chamber, if you had been afraid like everyone else?" Thought about this. Then I would have been afraid like everyone else, and the dread would still be a monster, and nothing would have changed. "But you did not run." "No, I did not run," smiled at the stars. "But it was not because I was brave. It was because I was tired. Tired of running from things that live inside me anyway. tired of fighting enemies that disappear when I stop fighting. Opened one eye and looked at her. After all these years, there was still something ancient in that eye, something that remembered being made of nightmares. But there was also something new, something like gratitude. Petted the creature gently. Everyone expected us to scream, she said softly. Everyone expected us to run. They never expected us to kneel down, look our fears in the eye and say, I see you. You can stay, but you do not get to drive. Leaned against her friend. They sat together in comfortable silence. Outside, the universe continued to spin. Stars were born and died. Wars started and ended. Fear remained as it always would. But somewhere in a small room on a space station far from Earth, beings were learning to breathe, learning to watch their thoughts, learning to make peace with the darkness inside. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything.